Hello, and welcome to Ellison Onizuka Kona International Airport. Today we are beginning the final two legs of my Hawaii trip, flying first back to Honolulu and then direct back to Austin. Our flight to Honolulu this morning is Hawaiian 137, which is served by another one of Hawaiian's inter-island Boeing 717-200 aircraft. As I mentioned in the previous video, this airport is incredible and is truly the embodiment of Hawaii. Almost the entirety of the airport is outdoors, with the only indoor section being the security checkpoints. The constant sea breeze, chirping birds, and light music all throughout the terminals keeps passengers relaxed and stress-free while waiting for their flights. The Kona Airport celebrated its 50th anniversary this past year, having opened its doors in July of 1970. Another 50th birthday celebration was also happening at the airport and really across the United States, as Southwest was celebrating its 50th birthday, having commenced operations on June 18, 1971. All of the check-in desks are at the front of the airport, not 5 steps away from the curbside drop-off and pickup zone, so getting from your car to your plane is incredibly easy. Before you can check in, however, all passengers with a final destination in the mainland United States must first have their bags screened by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to ensure that no fruit, plants, live animals, or other items are being brought from Hawaii to the mainland, as this could cause the spread of fruit flies or other hazardous plant and insect diseases. After the agricultural screening, passengers are free to check into their flight as normal and continue to security. There are 2 security checkpoints at the Kona Airport, but both pre-check and non-pre-check passengers must pass through the same screening lines. What's interesting is that because there is no dedicated pre-check security screening section, the airport indicates who can and can't follow pre-check protocol by putting a sticky note on pre-check passengers' boarding passes. It's a little weird considering that boarding passes come with the TSA pre-check marker on them, but it does make it easier for employees to determine who is and isn't pre-check without having to examine each boarding pass. Once beyond security, it's back outside into the Hawaiian Air and into the main terminal. I say terminal, but it's really a collection of pavilions and courtyards. There's lush greenery everywhere, and the architecture embodies the Hawaiian culture. There are only a total of 10 gates, and as such, there aren't a ton of shops or restaurants at the airport. Unfortunately, almost all of what was there was closed that morning, either because it was too early for normal operating hours or because of the pandemic. Despite this being a tiny airport, Kona International still serves some massive aircraft. Kona sees regular flights from 777s, 787s, and 767s, as well as a couple weekly flights from a cargo 747 and some 757s as well. There weren't any at the airport while I was there, but just imagine boarding a wide-body aircraft from such a tiny terminal. Possibly the most Hawaiian sign around the entire airport is this one here, informing passengers that they should consume all shave ice products prior to boarding in order to keep each aircraft clean. I don't think you could find a sign like this anywhere else in the world, and I really don't think there's a more clear way to indicate that you are truly in Hawaii. After a quick walk of the terminal, our aircraft finally arrived from its first morning flight. We're flying on another one of Hawaiian's Boeing 717-200s. This time we're on November 488 Hotel Alpha with the name Puaiohi. Before we hop on our plane, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It's totally free and it really helps me out. Oh, and hit that bell icon while you're down there so you never miss another upload. Thanks! For this flight, I'm seated in 14A, a window seat in the main economy cabin. Each economy seat has 30 inches of pitch and 18 inches of width. Economy seats on Hawaiian's Boeing 717s do not recline, which isn't a huge drawback on a 30-minute flight, but it is something to consider if you're really looking for that extra bit of comfort. Each seat features the standard amenities that you would expect out of a regional jet, including a seat back pocket with a magazine, overhead vents and lights, and a standard undersized tray table. The cabin crew also gave out a nice sterilizing wipe to each passenger while boarding, so they can clean the seat if they feel the need to do so. Something else interesting to note on this aircraft that I didn't mention in the previous leg is the seating arrangement. Boeing 717s are configured in a fairly standard 2x2 first class cabin, but the main cabin is arranged in a fairly unconventional 2x3. Granted, you do get some interesting arrangements on most regional jets, but it's still a variation from the fairly standard 3x3 arrangement. Our pushback was right on time, and we began our taxi out to runway 8 right for departure. As we make our way out to the runway, it's time for some stats for nerds. Starting off, our aircraft, November 488 Hotel Alpha, was delivered to Hawaiian in December of 2008, but did its fair share of service in Australia before then. First registered to Impulse Airlines in February of 2001, this 717 was then transferred between QantasLink, Jetstar, and National Jet Systems as Victor Hotel-Victor Quebec Alpha and Victor Hotel-November X-Ray Foxtrot before finally landing with Hawaiian in 2008. In addition, each Hawaiian Boeing 717-200 is named after a native Hawaiian bird. Ours is named Puaiohi after a bird that is native to the island of Kauai. Now, in the previous video, I covered a lot of information about the aircraft, so let's change it up a little and talk about Kona Airport. Kona Airport opened for service on July 1st, 1970. Kona's only runway, 17/35, is 11,000 feet long, or 3,353 meters, much of which is constructed on the 1801 lava flow from Hualalai. In 2020, Kona Airport saw 93,838 aircraft operations, and a total of 1,334,916 passengers and 5,871 tons of cargo. Our flight taxied out via Taxiway Alpha, where we lined up for departure on runway 35. Because of where I was sitting and the direction of the flight, there wasn't a ton to see out the window aside from some clouds and the Pacific below. After our departure, the cabin crew began the island beverage service, which included the same fruit juice and water selection as the previous flight. I of course chose the fruit juice because it really is incredible. The combination of passion orange and guava juice creates a real Hawaiian treat in the sky. Soon after the island beverage service had concluded, we began our descent into Honolulu. Runway 8 right/26 left was closed this morning, and as a result, we entered the pattern for arrival onto runway 4 right, one of Honolulu's 2 cross runways. Most arriving aircraft are routed onto 8 left, so it was interesting to see the view while arriving onto 4 right. Runway 4 right puts all arriving aircraft next to the cargo terminal, so we taxi back to the inter-island terminal via Kilo, Alpha, and Golf.
We will be taxiing for the next few minutes for your continued comfort and safety. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and your carry-on items properly stowed until our captain has turned off the seatbelt sign. Please use caution when opening the overhead bins. Items may have shifted during our flight and may fall as the bins are open. Passengers please use their cell phones. Please do so at this
After a short wait on the tarmac, we finally deplane and make our way out of the inter-island terminal. Our next flight leaves out of Terminal C, so we don't get to leave the airport, but at least we get to step outside one last time as we make our way across the connecting walkways. I'll be posting the final leg of my Hawaii trip next week, as well as a bunch of videos from Los Angeles and New York in the coming months. If you want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me and it really helps me out. There's a ton more content coming, so stick around if you want to see more. Thanks for flying with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.